Let's talk all about enzymes and our biochemical reactions that they create. All right, all organisms, or even single-celled organisms, they have metabolism. That's the sum of all the chemical reactions within each cell of that organism. All together, we call that metabolism. It provides energy for us to do the things that we do, plants to do the things that they do, and it also creates key molecules as a byproduct of a lot of those reactions. So a chemical reaction is the breaking and forming of bonds between different substances during chemical changes. Overall, reactions either absorb or release energy. By breaking a bond that requires energy to be absorbed. And when you form a bond, that allows energy to be released. This is very important to remember because sometimes this can be counterintuitive to students. So breaking bonds require energy to be absorbed, and forming bonds allow energy to be released. So due to the law of conservation of energy, no energy in a system is lost. It just changes forms. Sometimes we might release things as heat, light, etc.
When chemical reactions happen in a living thing, biochemical reactions as they are, they can be two different kinds. You can have catabolic reactions or anabolic reactions. Catabolic, it's a breaking down of these larger molecules into simpler ones, and that releases energy. Anabolic, you're building larger molecules from smaller ones, and that requires consuming energy to do it. Exergonic is a word that means to release energy. You may not have heard of that word before. Maybe you've heard ergonomic, like when you have an ergonomic chair, that means that it's a chair that's comfortable to sit at and you can do work at it, which means you can release a lot of energy. That's where they got that word. Or reactions that release energy can be exothermic. Endergonic is a word, it has a similar meaning, but it means it requires consuming energy in order to be able to do that. Now, all reactions require energy in some format to happen, and that energy is measured as activation energy, which is the amount of energy needed to make the chemical reaction start. Activation energy is measured through a reaction process. In our graph here, energy is increasing this way, and the reaction's progress, time if you will, is that way. Activation energy is the energy under the curve, from the tippy top, which is the highest amount of energy, to the energy that the reaction got as it started. This line represents activation energy. It demonstrates the amount of energy that's required to make the chemical reaction start. If I start here and I end here, then this is the amount of energy that was required, and then it's released. In a chemical reaction, we have reactants. Those are the things that are doing the reaction. And we have products. That's what's formed after the reaction is complete. Reactants are usually a substrate, and a product is usually what is made. So in a diagram like this, a chemical reaction is happening. It starts, there's a dip in energy, and then I have a huge increase in energy. And as I increase in energy and I'm releasing energy, my products are formed down here. A biological reaction can happen two major different ways. It can be endothermic and exothermic. Things that are endothermic, they're absorbing energy. Usually that's in the form of heat or light, like photosynthesis. It's taking in energy from the sun and making, sugars. Exothermic, it's releasing energy, usually in the form of heat or something like that. So cellular respiration, or as we respire, we release heat energy from that biological reaction. And how we show this is we look on these reaction diagrams. So if energy is increasing that way, and my reaction is progressing as it goes this way, if I start with a low amount of energy, my activation energy is very high. So a lot of energy is required to kind of kick off the reaction. And then when my products form, there's more energy at the end than there was at the beginning. This is endothermic. The change from the start to the finish is higher. Hence, it absorbed energy. Now, an exothermic reaction has a starting point here, and as the reaction's happening and my activation energy is increasing, the energy required to make the reaction happen is here. As I start to form my products, whatever that is, my energy becomes very, very low. So there's less energy in my products than there was at the beginning. Hence, it released all of the energy that was in this positive part. So it's exothermic. It's releasing energy. There are a couple key biochemical reactions that every biology student should know. The first one is photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is carbon dioxide plus water, H2O, react to form glucose, C6H12O6, and oxygen gas, O2. That is the chemical formula reaction for photosynthesis. Light energy is stored as a chemical energy in sugar, and therefore that reaction is endothermic. Cellular respiration, which is the process of that reaction in reverse, I have my sugar, C6H12O6, glucose, and I'm going to use oxygen to respire and put out carbon dioxide and water. That is the reaction for cellular respiration. Animal cells, animals, anything that doesn't photosynthesize, uses sugar and oxygen to breathe, and the output or the byproduct of that is carbon dioxide and water. So chemical energy in the sugar molecule is broken and converted into chemical energy that is released in the form of ATP. So therefore it is exothermic. To be honest, these chemical reactions that I've written for you and how they relate to endo and exothermic is something a biology student just needs to memorize.